Alright, so in this video, I'll be giving you my thoughts on whether Apple will or will not release a folding phone. I have to state that what I'm about to say is just what I think, and let's start a discussion in the comments, and I'd like to hear what you guys have to say too. So firstly, don't forget to hit that like button as it helps me out a lot, and check out my channel, and if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. Now let's just jump into this discussion. So firstly, I'll just go ahead and say that my personal feeling on whether Apple will release a folding phone or not is probably not right now, but maybe in the future. Maybe. It's not a certainty, but let's discuss why. So for starters, we know that Apple never really jumps on the spec wagon and include every single new feature when it's introduced. They're always late to the party, lagging behind their Android competitors when it comes to introducing new features. For example, they were late to include dual-core processors in, 2013, 2014, I can't remember, long after Samsung had already done it. I think Samsung already had introduced quad-core processors when Apple introduced dual-core processors. I'm not really sure about that, but they're always late for that. They were also late to include quad-core processors, and Samsung and the competitors had gone to the octa-core range when Apple jumped onto the quad-core range. Large displays, the first large display, meaning bigger than 4 inches. The first large display iPhone was the iPhone 6 in 2014, long after Samsung and the others had already released phones with displays over 5 inches and 6 inches. They were also late to wireless charging, way late, because there were phones that had wireless charging for a really long time, but they were late for that, and as well as water resistance, the iPhone 7 being the first iPhone with water resistance, a feature which Sony phones had since around 2010, and there were some smaller companies that had waterproof phones since around 2008 as well. So we can safely say that they're surely not going to be jumping on the foldable phone market anytime soon. So why do they do this? Well, it's simple. Technology advancement. So what do I mean by technology advancement? It means basically the longer a certain technology lasts in the market, the better and more refined it becomes. Apple just waits the extra years so that when they do release a certain technology, it will be flawless and perfectly polished. They only release something that is at its peak reliability and function. Now, having said that, in the case of folding phones, a few of these new but unpolished functions are, well, for starters, comparatively smaller battery size and fragility. The displays on these phones are so sensitive that even Samsung on their Galaxy Z Flip even cautioned their users not to use screen protectors on the flexible screens as it may damage them. And another main factor is consumer acceptance, because a product needs to be accepted and purchased by a wide range of consumers to be considered a true success, and folding phones in that case have a long way to go as of 2020. So folding phones are also expensive as well. Even for Samsung and Motorola, Samsung's Galaxy Z Flip is around $1,400, and the Motorola Razr is, I think it's plus $2,000. I can't remember, but they're really expensive phones. So one can only imagine how much a folding iPhone would cost if released now, if their competitors are that expensive. A folding iPhone, if released now, will be close to $3,000 to $4,000. So that's just crazy. So these are just a few of the reasons why I think Apple is holding back on a folding iPhone for now. But there's more. So now here's why I think Apple may never make a folding phone. And it's just as simple as how Apple sees things. Now here's an example of an older piece of technology that was dropped even though it was quite an advancement and it was really fun back in its time. And I'm speaking about 3D display phones. So phones with 3D displays and 3D cameras were a huge hit in late 2010 and right throughout 2011 and 2012. phones such as the LG Optimus 3D and the HTC Evo 3D, as seen here, dominated this market. The technology was initially pioneered by the Japanese manufacturer Sharp, who released the world's first 3D capable phone as early as 2002, the Sharp Mova SH25 1IS, a phone that is not known by many people because it was only released in Japan, but you can look it up. It is the Sharp Mova SH25 1IS. The technology only became popular in 2010, but despite its success, Apple never really jumped onto it, and the technology is, of course, no longer seen in high-end smartphones from notable brands. The Red Hydrogen 1 attempted to revive 3D displays, but failed miserably in, 2018? Yeah, the Red Hydrogen 1 was in 2018. It sounded great, but it had a lot of issues and it wasn't as advertised. The reason as to why Apple ignores such technology is that they see it as a gimmick. For example, 3D, they probably saw it as, okay, it's great technology, but it's a gimmick. And it's impractical and just an extra hassle that is not worth the extra engineering effort. They did the same thing with air gestures. To this day, iPhones do not have any form of air gestures natively supported on iOS. I think there are some mods where you can use the infrared sensor for the iPhone 10 and above to use it as air gestures. I'm not really sure, but I think there's a mod. I've seen that somewhere. And these features exist in other smartphones, such as the latest Galaxies and LGs, but it's not a feature that everyone would use. Hence why Apple really didn't bother with it. Hence, this is why I think Apple may never ever manufacture a folding iPhone, as they might just see it as a gimmick. Sure, it's a great technology, and such as the 3D thing, I still think it's really cool. Now, this HTC that I have with me, I'm trying to get it fixed. It's in a partial state of repair. That's a video for a different time, and it's a great technology, but it's still somewhat of a gimmick. So I don't think that folding phones are a gimmick, but it's just Apple. It's just how they see things. They might just see it as a gimmick, where the negatives outweigh the positives. So finally, these are just some of my thoughts. Like I said before, I could be right or wrong, but that's just up for time to decide. But what are your thoughts on this subject? Please leave a comment down below and let's start a discussion. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like this video as it helps me out a lot. And please check out my channel. And if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in my next video.